Okay, I'm going to be talking about how to get the workshop going for Tabletop Simulator on Steam, how to get Senjutsu up and running. Now it's kind of in its initial stages of testing. You can get up onto Tabletop Simulator and play some games, and how to use Tabletop Simulator as well once you're in. So the first thing you'll need is Steam, which you can see on the board here, on the screen here. And Steam is the platform to use. Once you've got Steam, you'll then need to buy Tabletop Simulator. If you just type in Tabletop, you'll see Tabletop Simulator. It's on sale at the moment, but again, usually around about £12.99 English pounds, but it changes in many sales. So get that and download it. Any things that you download will be down on your game library down here. And I've got it over here as well because it's recent games. But if you go to Tabletop Simulator, click once, and you don't want to play it yet. Okay, so you want to get the content on. So to get content, when you're on this screen, you want to go over to Workshop. Workshop is the key part. Now this is kind of where all the fan created, as well as the board game companies, where they create mods, which are effectively the games that you can open up in Tabletop Simulator. They'll usually give you a most popular list. It tends to be kind of possibly Magic the Gathering, for example, with pretty much every card, probably. And oops, don't do that. Sorry. And then you've also got there just a ton, and all of this is free. Okay, so the best way to do that is if you want to search for a game like Senjutsu, you can put it in, press enter, and it'll bring up any particular mods that you might have. Now, if you haven't been subscribed to it, so for example, if you've not done it, you'll see when you hover over it, you'll get a little plus. Now, you can go into it itself, so if you click on the actual portrait itself, it'll take you to the game page. It'll tell you about some of the assets, some pictures, and a little bit about information about the game and where you get it, as well as any comments. So if you're having issues with that mod, then you can go to it. If you know you definitely want that, I've already subscribed, so it seems to not let me not unsubscribe. Click the little plus button in the corner, and that will basically load up that mod onto the workshop. Now, there are literally any game, so many games on here. So, for example, if you enjoy, I don't know, let's see if now some aren't on here. Now, you've got Ticket to Ride, for example. Have a look at the star ratings. That will give you a kind of inclination about which one's better or not. You can sort by most popular, most subscribed. Your most subscribed are probably going to be your most used. So again, going onto this Ticket to Ride, you just click that little plus. That'll subscribe you to it, and it'll put it into your games library. So how do you access these games? So once you've happy and you've got whichever games you want, go back to your library and you want to play Tabletop Simulator. Now mine comes up with this. You've got a speedier version for those without as good a bandwidth, perhaps. My computer's not the fastest, so we'll see how slow this is. And then click on play. I'm just going for the normal one. And you'll get the icon down here, and eventually it'll load up. Now this can take a little bit of time, so we're probably going to get some, as it starts to use up my, I don't know how old this iMac is, 15 years old, something like that. As it starts to use up, not that old, as it starts to use up the memory and the CPU of my computer, we might get a bit of juttering on the stream, but hopefully you can still hear me as we go through. So it opens up the game. It is by Berserk Games, and to be honest, if you want to create your own content in Tabletop Simulator and understand that, on YouTube, Berserk Games have got a whole series of tutorials of how to create assets, how to bring them into the game. So if you're a game designer or a budding game designer and wanted to just try and put some games in there, you can do it in your own Steams as well. There's plenty of standard materials you can access when you're inside any mod, any game mod. You can edit mods or whatever it might be. So as we're loading in together, there's two different modes. You can play it solo, so you can play it as like a single player, or you can play it multiplayer, which means you open up a table over the internet, and then people can join that. You can password protect that. You can just have it open so anyone can join. And then the best way to invite friends, especially if you're not friends on Steam, which you may not be, is to just literally give anyone you want to join the details, so the server name and the password, which I'll show you in a second, once hopefully we get loaded up. For Senjutsu, obviously they will now, I believe they said that certainly for the time being, the Senjutsu mod, the one that I'm going to show you in a second, is going to continue to be updated. And this is the beauty of these mods, is you don't have to keep going into that workshop, downloading a new one, and then opening it up. It updates it automatically, so many of them. So when you get onto the screen, you'll get this. It's got a global chat. You can join rooms already. So let's say someone already opened up a room and they said, "Come and join." It's a server. It's called Senjutsu. So it'd be interesting to see if there's anyone on there at the moment. I'm guessing not, but let's say for argument's sake, I get rid of the search bar and it'll tell you about all the games that are out at the moment, the players that are watching, and whether it is password protected. So effectively clicking on this, you can see that we can play a bit of Betrayal, Widow's Walk, which is one of the games, and then there's just a load of Arkham Horror. But yeah, so you can effectively play and see what everyone's playing at the moment, or if you know what the server's called, you can use that. So this is joining, okay? Also, you'll notice I haven't got the horrendous sounds. I highly recommend just get rid of the main menu volume. It's most irritating. So you want to open up your own table. Maybe you want to try a deck or try solo, whatever it might be. So you click on Create and you have a choice. Single player means that you are just going to play yourself on the one computer. Multiplayer is the one you use the most, which is opening up a server room and inviting people to play. Hot seat means if you've got multiple people around the same computer or same device, okay? So let's, for argument's sake, say we're going to just start with single player. Once you choose one of these, you'll get access to exactly the same options as any of them, which is classic, which are kind of like your real classic games. DLC, which is kind of like proper paid DLC for Tabletop Simulator, which you will see and are on sale. They're really quality made mods, as you would imagine. And then you've got Workshop. So all your games that you have kind of wanted to play, and it might be Kickstarter demos, for example, or it could literally be Marvel Champions. I've got here Nemesis, a bit of Gloomhaven, a whole myriad of stuff. So I'm going to hit out the Senjutsu, because that's what we're talking about today. So click on the button that you want to load, click load, and then effectively that will load that mod onto the computer you want to use, onto the format you want to use, whether it's single player, whether it's multiplayer, whether it's hot seat. It takes a little time, and what I really highly recommend is you don't do anything until it's 100% loaded. You'll see up the top right, this is your avatar, I guess, your name. It will give you a percentage in terms of how much is loaded. If you start playing around with keys, moving things around before it's 100% loaded, in my experience, I've noticed it crash a lot of the time. So just let it do its thing. It could take quite a while. I mean, obviously I'm streaming, recording, as well as loading up and using Tabletop Simulator. I haven't got the fastest computer, it's not the most powerful computer, so it does take probably a lot longer than what yours will take. So as you start to see the assets start to appear on the board. Don't be afraid if you see cards that are like playing decks with like 4 clubs on the top and stuff like that. It means that they're placeholders before the actual proper assets, the graphics get imported in. So we're on 80%, as you can see there. The little crown symbol means you are leading the session. You can swap that over to other players, which is really handy. So let's say you've got this table open and you've got 4 people up here playing, and then you've got to go away, okay? And you want to leave the table in its current state to someone else. You can just promote those people, okay? And I'll talk about that when they come up on here. Now, obviously, playing single player, you will not see anything that we can add additional players. So first of all, this is the table. Now, it's mouse orientated. The only thing I would recommend if you're going to do this is get a mouse with a wheel function. You need the wheel scroll function to zoom in and out. Okay, so that's the first command or action you can use on Tabletop Simulator. It's one you'll use a lot, which is the zoom in. Okay, zoom in and zoom out. Next is another camera control, which is moving around or panning around the board, which is your W, A, S, and D keys. These will effectively be able to allow you to move around the board and look around. Okay. The other one with the camera is the right mouse button. If you push and hold, then you can change the angle of the camera and rotate around as well. This is a quick way of doing it. There are also ways of saving camera angles. So let's say I quite like this as the board. By holding down Control and let's say 1, it says saved camera 1. To access that, it's Shift and that number, and it will load that camera. So let's say we do this, and we want to, look down at this player. So let's call this camera number 2. Then we can quite easily move between camera 1 and camera 2 by holding down Shift and pressing that number. Next, especially when you play with multiple people, you can choose teams or colors. By changing colors, you'll notice there are plenty of player positions to be available from. So let's say I want to use this area over here, or maybe I just want to denote myself as the red player. I can click on the red, and now all my actions and everything else, my hand on the virtual board will be red. Okay, and you'll notice up the top right we also red. If you click on a different player, you'll see you'll be able to promote them, which means they can start to edit things on the board. Without that, they can't edit. Another thing I would highly recommend when you get it first opened up and you perhaps get your decks across, one issue that people tend to do, say you want to try and pick up this ring and move it around as you move around your camo tree, you might accidentally pick up this by accident. Okay, so what you want to do, things you want to stay in place, like the board, rather than shuffling everything else, is if you hover over and press the L key, it'll lock the board. Obviously, all of these have, you can go on to right-click on the object, and you'll be able to go to toggles and do a lot of this stuff anyway, so there's the long way about doing it, right-clicking on an object. Now, this is a card game by its base, so let's just pick up these. So to pick up a deck of cards, you left-click and hold, and then it'll pick up the whole deck. To draw a card, you left-click and quickly drag, and it'll drag one card away from there. The other thing is, because this is kind of a deck game, and it's quite important for these shortcuts, is you will want to flip your cards around quite often. Hovering over an object and pressing the F key will flip an object as well, which is really quite handy. And if you, let's say, I want to draw this into my hand. Now, drawing things into your hand means it's secret information to just you. Okay, so let's say I want 3 cards. If I press the number 3 while hovering over, it will draw 3 cards, and you see my hand is there at all times at the bottom of the screen. Just to point out, down near my section over here, you'll see there's 3 cards. Other players will see that I have 3 cards in my hand, but will not be able to see those cards. Again, right-click, draw is another way of drawing cards into your hand, or of course you can just drag it to the bottom of the screen, pressing the F key to flip it in. So there's several ways to draw the cards. The easiest way by far is hovering over, pressing the number of cards you want to draw, and yes, this does work for 1 card. Okay, to take them out of your hand, you come down to the bottom where you've got it, and you see it selecting these cards. You then grab and drag and you place. So let's say I want to put this on my card action. I can put it into here. Obviously this will be flipped, so what you would probably want to do here is choose the card you want to go for, press F while it's in your hand to flip it, so that when you drag it out, no one will see what card you're playing. Okay, so you can change all your hands and everything else. You can change the size of objects with the plus and the minus key, changing the card size. Let's say you think this is too big, the miniature, you can reduce the size of that miniature just so it's a bit more tidy on the table. Again, just a shortcut, it depends if you want to use it. So that's about cards in your hand. Now let's say you put this card down here and you're not really sure what it was and you want to see it again. Now there is a secret look function. Alt will bring up on your screen a zoomed in image of whatever object you are hovering over by holding down Alt while doing this. If you hold down Shift as well as Alt, it will show you a secret. It does tell people in the in the game section of the chat that you are using this, okay, that you are doing this option, okay. So it warns people. Also they'll see a little eye trigger. So if you if blue player, for argument's sake, let's say blue player played a card as well, if I did this, you'll see there's a little eye symbol with my colour, so they know that you're cheating. But it's really useful just to make sure you know what you're doing. Obviously you can hold Alt for the cards in your hand as well to bring them up so you can see them more clearly, whatever it might be. Now the only problem is, of course, because these are two different objects, holding Alt over your Kame tree will not bring out your ring that you have put on there. So please note that. Then you can reveal. So holding over, pressing F will reveal the cards. You can press Alt again to see. I mean, obviously you wouldn't use Calm Composure. That's misleading because it's not one you can play. But you look at your speeds. You look at your advantage track. Again, I would highly recommend locking this. Let's say I'm just against another one. So here's the character. So how do you move your character and everything else? So to move, let's say for argument's sake, we've got a force movement of 1 and we want to do a rotation. Okay. By the way, if you want to show anyone in the game, you want to point out anything, wherever your hand pointer is, if you tap Tab, it'll bring a little arrow up. Now you can bring up multiple arrows at any one time, but it's quite useful to say I can attack here or here, for example. So let's say for argument's sake I move forward 2 and I want to rotate to my left. To rotate an object you're going to use Q and E. Please note your rotation degrees up on the top of the screen. You can change this by left clicking 45, 60, 90, 15 and 30. I'm going to keep it on 30. Now obviously these are 60 degrees implements, so you could, if you wanted to, change it to 60. The problem with changing to 60 is really good for this, should be anyway, in terms of rotating for each one, so you might want to do that. But any cards that you're going to rotate will rotate the same 60, so you won't be able to put them 45 degrees, which may not be a problem, but just be aware that if you need to change it, it's up here. So rotating to the left, I press the Q key while holding over, and now I'm pointing in this direction. It's not easy to see, and I think they're going to be changing the mod to help with this, but there is an arrow on each of the miniatures to show the position or the direction that they are facing. It is, of course, extremely important in this game. Advantage track, as it says there, you can just go up the advantage track and change that. I'm not going through the rules of the game, I'm just talking about how Tabletop Simulator works. Okay, to draw a stun card, because some effects will cause you stun, again, hover over and just use any of the actions that I showed you before. I can just press a 1, it brings it into my hand. Obviously, if I wanted to play, to get rid of my stun, I might flip it and use an action card, whatever it might be. Wounds, again, just to donate those wounds, you grab it from there, and you'll see here now I can rotate it and I can put it here. Okay, bleeding wounds exactly the same, hobble exactly the same. Okay, so there's a way of just grabbing these off and showing them on. To discard, you can put it back in the deck. So you see here, I'm picking it up and I'm hovering, so there's a white outline underneath. That'll put it into that deck. Again, hover over, put it there. Oops, that's good. And it'll put it back into the deck. Okay, and that's how you create a deck. Deck builders, you'll need to, or deck builders, or deck games, card games, you'll need to shuffle the deck as well. That's very, very important. Hovering over, pressing the R key, shuffles it. The other thing you can do is, whilst holding the whole deck, you can shake your mouse. That also shuffles the deck, and some people quite like to do that because it's a bit more physical. You can also right-click and click shuffle. So any of these ways of shuffling a deck are important for randomizing your deck and shuffling. To look at some cards of your deck, you can do it in several ways. Probably the easiest way to do it, rather than seeing the whole of your deck, to be honest, is to draw the 3 cards like so, just so your opponent knows exactly what you're doing. So you know you're going from top to bottom, and then using your look secretly function to see which they are, and then you can grab your card you want, put it in your hand, let's say, and you can put the back in the same order, or just put them on top, and if you're required to shuffle the deck, shuffle the deck. The other thing is you can search decks as well. Right-clicking on this and going to search brings up this panel. Please note it depends on how the assets were named, will depend on what it's called. So horizontal cut will not bring up horizontal cut, whereas cards 7, 17, 27, and 37 will be shown up like so. So please be aware of that. If you want this card, you literally drag it up and you bring it out. It will come in the orientation that it is in the deck, and you can do what you want from that. Very useful if you're searching your deck for certain cards. Okay, so that's a little bit about deck play. You can pick up multiple things. So let's say I wanted to pick up 2 of these focus tokens. Instead, I can just go 1 and 2. Or, if I want to, I can left click, grab this one, and then whilst holding down the left mouse button, if you right click, you'll pick up multiples. This is really good for like money games if you've got economy and you want to pick up several bits of money. It'll also automatically stack them for you. Obviously, if you have got a top-down view, you will not be able to see this stack. So having it down like so might be easier. And you can always take them off afterwards. Now these don't seem to be actually stacking together. A lot of the time you can get ones that properly stack together and it'll tell you the number of cards. By the way, that's another thing. If you hover over it, it'll tell you the number of items in that stack. So I've got 47 in that particular stack. I think that's pretty much everything in terms of controls. Now, you might want to create a deck, and then you want to keep that deck and bring it into things. Now, they are going to be doing a deck builder, which means that you can literally bring in a deck to the game, and it'll have a little box where you'll put a code, and then it'll automatically spawn that deck for you. This is how a lot of the deck builders that are on Tabletop Simulator work. Okay. For now, what you can do is create your deck. So let's just, for argument's sake, let's draw another 20 cards from that. Then I want to select all of these. So to select these, I can basically select a box around them all, and I can bring them all out. I give it a little shake, it brings it into one pile, which is quite handy. 28, let's bring in another 10. You can also, I believe, whoops. Then we want to do the same again. Grab those. Make sure it's hovered over, and it should add to the deck. 38, 39, 40. So this is my deck. It's an awful deck, but who cares? So I've got my deck. You would need make sure you've got your additional 2 of those. Make sure you've got your Kame tree. Again, I've locked this one, so I can't grab it. So hovering over and pressing the L key again means it's unlocked, so I can add that to it. And I can also get his name card. I do not want those tokens, but I'm quite happy with that. And I also want this. So here we go. This is my deck that I want to import to other games. If you grab a box, that's left click, hold, and drag a box around it, it selects all those items. Right click, and then go to Save Object. Keep it in the root folder, I do. You can create folders inside of there, but I'll have to show you where you do those. Let's say we want to call this the Test Shen Jutsu. Oh wow, that's terrible. Jutsu deck. Okay. Click Save. Now if I open up and if I join, let's say I join a different, so I'm going to open up the table again. So one that basically when you open up a brand new table, nothing will be saved from last time. Now I'm going to show you also a way of saving the game state. So not particularly for Senjutsu, I wouldn't say, but for longer games, you don't have to play them all in one sitting. You can actually play them over a number of sessions, and I'll show you how to save the game. So we want to bring our deck into here, okay? So what we do is up here, you've got some options. You want to go to Objects. Now there are components, there's different tables, and there's different backgrounds that you can literally just bring out into the into your mod. Components, you've got things like dice, tokens, coins, marbles, chess points, checkers, playing cards, poker chips, RPG kits, calculators, counters. This is really quite a useful one. Oh, that's slow. Say you want to counter. Say you want to count, I don't know, the number of rounds or whatever it might be, or you want a clock that you can you bring up. So you can bring these into your game. and do whatever you want with them. Okay, so then we've got a clock, just in case, and I've got a counter as well. Say I want to count the number of, I don't know, the number of wounds. Say I don't want to pick up these cards and put them from me. I can just use this to count up those number of wounds. Again, they're objects, yeah, so you can still hover over it and lock it, which means you're not going to be able to move this. You've got a text function here where you can literally type in the number that you want. So really handy little bits of component list. But we're interested in the deck we just saved. So if we go to saved objects, this is my root folder. You'll notice we've got folders here. I can create, so for example, I can create in the root folders a folder named Senjutsu. I've now got a Senjutsu folder. I can click and hold and drag. No, I don't think I can, actually. I think you have to save them into it. So I forgot what we called it. It was a test Senjutsu deck. Here it is. So this is the object that I saved. So you click, just like when you're searching, and you drag it out. You can close your saved objects, and now you've got this, you've got this, you've got this, you've got the ring, and you've got your 42 cards with your 2 core cards and your deck. So everything is there, ready to use. Okay, and you can go get playing straight away. Really, really handy for deck games while they don't have a deck builder and importer in play. And some people actually quite like to do it this way anyway. So if I joined a group, I would be able to do that, but you have to make sure that the person, whoever's running that game, clicks on your name in the top right and promotes you. Once they've promoted you, you should have access to this option. You won't have unless they do that. So let's say we've played a game, blah blah blah, and we got to state, oh, I've got to go, I've got to do something. So I need to save it in this state. This is terrible, I know, but just pretend. So what you go to is Games, Save Game, and you want to save a game, right? So you click on this. Make sure you don't click on one of these because it will effectively load the game rather than saving it. So clicking on one of these will load the game. Clicking here will save it. Again, you can go to root folder in your save slots, or in fact, why don't I go to create folder and call that Senjutsu. Create that, go into here, save game, Senjutsu test. Save that, and bang, there it is. Let's say you go, alright, no, I'm okay, we can play for another 5 minutes. We play a little bit more, let's say I get to there, blah blah blah, for some reason, cards have changed again. Rather than saving as a new one, what you can do is click on here again, go to Senjutsu, and these little 3 dots are the options, and you can overwrite. Okay, so overwrite this, and it now is the latest one. Then when you open up the next day or the next week or whatever it is might be, when you go to games or when you open up a table, it'll be down here. Okay, here's my Senjutsu test. You literally left click on it, you load it, and that'll load it. Now, even though I'm in solo, and in fact I'll show that now. So what everyone loves to do is when they win a game or finish a game, you can flip the whole table. There's a bit of satisfaction onto that. So going back to the main menu, and I'm nearly finished. So back to the main menu here, and this time I'm going to create a multiplayer. So I'll ask you to put a server name, put your password down if you want to. Are you just doing your friends from your Steam account? Do you want to just do it to invite people, or do you want it that anyone can join? The amount of players that you could possibly come into it. So again, I'm going to keep that on 8. It doesn't have to be 8, but you could have up to 8. And then you create that server. That server is now live on where it says join. People will be able to go to there. Obviously, they'll need to know its password to get onto it. Then, remember my save game? Let's open it up. So I load it, even though I'm in a multiplayer now. I'm opening up my save game. It's absolutely fun. It's not a problem at all. It'll load up. Again, don't do anything until it's 100% loaded. I highly recommend. We've even got a little clock there and counter. Okay, so it saves everything in the state that you put it in. This is for those long campaign-based games if you want to play those instead of a shorter skirmish game. 85, 87. Nearly there. 98. 100. And it's loaded. So, A few other things that tells me it's loaded completed. The other thing I wanted to show was up here. Again, I can change my colour again. Now, it does actually tell you on it. All the colours around the outside are player colours. The black circle, which is dark grey in reality, is basically you can see everything, any hidden information, cards in people's hands. This is really quite good for like a tournament organizer. If you're playing like a game, a competitive game, and you want the rules master or whatever you want to call them, the game master, I suppose it says it there, to make sure that no cheating's going on, they can click on that and they can see everything. Or if they just want to see the game being played, you can click on Grey Spectator. It means you can go around and you won't be able to grab anything, of course, because you are not a player. So I'm going to change the colour and go to red again. But now you've got a little plus, so you can invite friends, and again, this will open up your Steam deck, as it were. But again, what I would highly recommend is just tell people what the server is and what the password is. They chuck it in and they can just join. It's a lot easier, but you don't have to do it that way. You can do it by invite only. It works in exactly the same way as before. You can pick up objects, you can rotate them, you can bring objects into the world or whatever it might be. So what I recommend is perhaps using a coin, it's Americanism, quarter. There we go, boom. And now for those ties when you're on advantage and everything else, pressing R over, just like shuffle, will flip the coin. And you can, if you can catch it mid-air, you can flip it. Exactly same for dice as well. So, whoops, didn't go to that. So if you go to components and we go to dice, we just bring up a D6, bring it out. If you want to roll dice, you can press R. Best way to do it, easiest way to do it. If you want to clone, you can clone. So if I click on clone, I can bring out multiple dice. So those unique components that you never seem to have enough of, you can clone them. You can pick them up and you can roll them. Okay, so you can roll dice just like physical objects. If you bring them up and bring up any objects and shuffle or just shake, it'll bring them together. Then what you can do is, if you've got multiple objects, you can select them all. Press R a couple of times, and bang, 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 you've rolled your dice. Okay, so that's rolling as well as shuffling. Okay. So other than that, I think that's everything you need to know to get started with Senjutsu, but not just Senjutsu, with any board game you want to. And it's, when we had lockdowns because of the COVID, this was really just a lifeline. Tabletop Simulator, Board Game Arena, Tabletopia, all these kind of virtual board games really helped with people's mentality, meaning we can meet up, we can play games together. Not the same as in real life, is nowhere near as good as in real life, but if that's the only option you have, and especially if you're testing things and you're trying some prototypes out, it's a really good system. And it feels quite realistic. For myself, Board Game Arena feels more like a computer game where everything's top down and it's very much scripted. Yes, you can get scripted stuff in this as well. They haven't at the moment, but that will be changing. So there'll be buttons you can press and it'll do stuff for you, so it's ease of use. But ultimately, it feels quite like a replica version of an actual tabletop board game. Okay, and just to show you, why not? That Ticket to Ride, let's have a look. I literally just added to my list of games. You can click on anything. And what's really cool is anyone who's joined your server stays in the server. So let's say you want to play several games, you can do. Not a problem at all. And this is loading up now. Obviously, you'll need to know about what's kind of going on. I just want to show you one last place. If you go to Notebook, a lot of the time the rules might be in here. So it's worth having a look. And you can put in your own notes as well. Let's say I want to jot down must go to San Fran. For example, only I would be able to see that. Okay, only I would be able to see it. You should notice these are all locked. Okay, so that's the way. But there's nothing in rules for this particular one. Now this table here has actually got these drawers which have got your trains in them, it seems. So obviously on this one, so these should be red trains where I can literally grab it and rotate it around. Has it got clipping? Yeah, a lot of them will have clipping, so I don't have to rotate. I literally just place it on, and it'll place it on in the right direction. So as an example, you got your cards, you got your points. Looks like your points tracker here as well. So and there's your routes and stuff like that. Okay. So as an example, that's a slightly different board. You can also open up your own tables, depending on what kind of table you want to play on. You've got a poker table, so I can bring out a poker table if I really wanted to, and just place it on there. We can play cards. You can, for example, objects, components, cards, and we can just get a standard deck and show it on the board. Boom, and then we suddenly got a. Oh, you know what, guys and girls, let's just have a break and play a little bit of poker. You can obviously shuffle your deck. You can deal out people. So you can deal as well. So right click, deal, and then you can choose deal green, yellow, blue, purple, blah blah blah. For example, obviously mine's shown here. And then you can, you know what we're going to do? We're going to one. Sorry, just showing how easy it is. Boom, we're playing poker now. There's the flop. Blah blah blah. So loads you can do with Tabletop Simulator. A really nice little system to go. Menu, main menu, and you can quit back out. As soon as you quit, you've exited this server. The server's gone. People will not just be able to get on it when you're not there, which is really quite good. But it would have been here would I have actually not closed the room. So that's effectively Tabletop Simulator, Senjutsu, how to get the mod up, how to play the game, but there's a whole world of thousands upon thousands upon thousands of games, board games, card games that you can use the workshop for. It's really great for RPGs. There's a ton of D&D content there as well, where you can get those little trays that come out. You've got your character sheet. You can have maps, overlays that you're moving around. The possibilities are pretty endless, but it is that kind of online system. So please be aware it's not in real life. It does not completely swap out real life. It's nothing better than playing board games, card games in real life and having that. But it does give you that social interaction. The one thing I didn't mention was if you want to chat in Tabletop Simulator, holding down the C key will actually open up to your microphone and you'll be able to chat. It works a lot better if you just use a chat functionality, whatever of your chosen one. So you can actually use Zoom, FaceTime, so you can see people, Discord, or just do the chat function. So that's the easiest way to do it. Okay, hopefully that helped. But yeah, get on Tabletop Simulator and get playing it. I mean, you can see here 46 hours played in a couple of years. So it's a lot. I've played it a lot, and it's so good. Okay, until next time, keep gaming.